The Las Vegas Raiders are in complete chaos right now. And honestly, I'm not even sure where to begin with all the dysfunction that's been exposed over the past couple of weeks. But here's what I do know. Pete Carroll has been leaking information to the media like crazy, trying to shift blame away from himself. And Chip Kelly just fired back. But there is something more interesting to share with you guys. I just watched the last game tape thoroughly, and I've seen rookies outplay veterans in the Chargers game, which completely contradicts everything Pete Carroll has been saying about why these young guys weren't ready to play. So either Pete doesn't know how to evaluate talent, or he's been lying to us this whole time. And I'm leaning toward both being true at this point. What's up, Raider Nation? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Raiders. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the Raiders. Let me start with what happened in the Chargers game, because this is where things get really interesting and honestly kind of infuriating. Did you see the Christmas miracle? Caleb Rogers was in the game playing guard. Can you believe it? And guess what? He was fine. He wasn't worse than Will Putnam or Kappa or Meredith. If anything, he was at least exactly the same, if not a little better. Who would have thought? Against a really good front four in the Chargers, he let up like one pressure. He was one of two linemen on the team that didn't give up a sack. I think the one sack maybe he did give up, but Geno was holding the ball for like 10 minutes. So it is what it is. So let me get this straight. Pete Carroll and his staff put out a report 2.5 weeks ago saying Caleb Rogers was so bad with just getting basic assignments down that it would be disrespectful to other players to start him. And then this kid goes out there against one of the better defensive fronts in the league and looks like one of our best offensive linemen? That doesn't add up. Either Pete Carroll can't evaluate talent, or he was lying about why Caleb Rogers wasn't playing. And I'm starting to think it's both. The fact that Caleb Rogers wasn't playing earlier is absolute coaching malpractice. But it is what it is. We're used to it at this point. Now the question is, did the offense look better with Greg Olsen than it did with Chip Kelly? Sure, I guess so. Although, it doesn't really matter at this point. But if Pete Carroll survives this, which I don't think he will at this point, but if he does survive this, just keep Greg Olsen. What's the point in going to get a hotshot up-and-coming offensive coordinator for Pete Carroll to just boss around? Because Greg Olsen would just sit there and take it from Pete Carroll and just run whatever he wants to run. Obviously, we can't get Ashton Genty going. The line is terrible. Geno was fine. Threw another pick. What else is new? The rookies are playing more, and there actually is a little bit of positivity to take away from this game. I know that's kind of crazy to say. The Raiders faced a Chargers team that knows how to win games in various ways. Although it was a close game at halftime, a little too close for comfort for the tank people, which I might be one of those people now, the overall vibe of the game was that the Chargers were only a few plays away from putting the Raiders away. That's true. Following Las Vegas's loss to the Chargers, Raiders head coach Pete Carroll explained how the natural flow of the game threw things off for Las Vegas. Yeah, it wasn't the talent deficiency or the lack of coaching, it was the natural flow of the game. Carroll said, "We had two huge drives in the first half. One of them we didn't stop them. One of them we got the big turnover. So great job by our guys hanging on defense. We had a nice sudden change. We go out on defense and we stop them on fourth down. Those are big stops, but they had a lot of plays on us. They were able to drive the ball, and that goes all the way back to where we started, goes back to third down. You can't just sit down and we got to get off the field." How much do I actually care about what Carroll is saying? He's saying all the right things. However, there are 5 games left in the season. There's only so much progress that can be made in the amount of time with one of the league's worst rosters. Las Vegas must make the most out of the next 5 games, and that comes down to playing the rookies. We don't know what's going on with Charles Grant because he hasn't gotten in. Some people think he's explicitly going to be a tackle, and they're not going to play him over DJ Glaze. For some reason, they won't put him over Stone Forsythe. I don't expect him to be much better than Stone Forsythe. Being a tackle is a lot harder than being a guard in this league.
But if you remember, I predicted we would draft Charles Grant day 2 or day 3 because Spytek said on a podcast when he was on the Bucs, what the Bucs like to do is draft tackles from small schools like Charles Grant and play them at guard. So maybe they're thinking we're going to play him at guard instead of Dylan Parham once Dylan Parham is gone. But right now, Parham is technically better. They're putting Caleb Rogers in the game. Who knows? Here's what I'm thinking about the offensive line moving forward. I would consider moving Glaze to guard, letting Parham go because Glaze is probably better naturally as a guard, having Caleb Rogers and DJ Glaze as your guards, having JPJ as your center, working Charles Grant as the right tackle and Colton Miller as the left tackle. And if that doesn't work, then you can go spend big in free agency with the money that you have, with the money you'll save probably from cutting Geno Smith, and go get a couple more offensive linemen if some of those rookies are not yet ready. That iteration of the line, Colton Miller, DJ Glaze, Caleb Rogers, Jackson Powers Johnson, Charles Grant, is already an upgrade from whatever we were throwing out this year with Kappa, Meredith, and Will Putnam. All three of those guys better not be within 1,000 feet of the building next year. We don't know how good either of these two tackles are right now, but then Jack Betch feels like he's going to make or break whether this draft class was actually successful. The optimism in me wants to say I feel like when he gets in the game and they throw him the ball, he kind of looks like a decent wide receiver. But what's driving me up the wall is that Tyler Lockett continues to take reps away from these kids. Dante Thornton doesn't seem like right now he's an NFL body. Maybe that'll change. I don't know. In practice, he looked really good, and in the preseason, he looked really good. I don't know what's going on now. It's probably just because he's playing better competition, and he'll maybe learn from this season. But Jack Betch seems like he's acclimated himself pretty decently. And Pete Carroll continuing to run Tyler Lockett out there just to protect Geno's stat line, it seems ridiculous. That's driving me up a wall. We're at the point now where if you're the Las Vegas Raiders, you just got to think about how you want to go forward. You either say we're going all in next year with Pete Carroll and we're going to continue to try to win, or you say we're going to essentially restart, rebuild, retool, and go from that point forward. I think Pete Carroll is going to end up getting fired. I just don't see how the Raiders can continue with someone like that. If you can do what he's been doing up to this point, leaking information, blaming players, blaming coordinators, it's just a matter of time until you cross the line with the wrong player and they call you out on it. We've already seen reports where Brock Bowers was essentially blamed, and Brock Bowers is only in his second year. He's a young football player who hasn't matured into someone like Max Crosby or some of the other veterans we know. At some point, someone is going to say something or call it out, and I'm sure some Raiders players already see this. If Pete Carroll gets fired, we're going to have to talk about new coaches. Right now, I'm just going to throw two names out there, one that I would want and one to just keep an eye on. The one that I would want is Joe Brady. The one to keep an eye on is Mike Tomlin. I will get back to this topic in a few weeks, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What are your thoughts on all these leaks that are coming out? Do you think Pete Carroll's going to get fired? And what do you make of Caleb Rogers finally getting playing time and looking good when Pete told us he wasn't ready?